When I look back, as tough as they were, like it happened for a reason. And so going through that and then being able to look back at past adversities and understand that, it was just kind of where I was in the mindset when I went through this.
Every life leaves a trail of lessons. Join me as we interview the most amazing people. The Conversation. Hey friends, we're here with Jedidiah Snelson, and I'm super excited to talk with Jedidiah today. I've been stalking him online and his wife for years, and this is serious though, I have. And I'm really excited. He's a motivational speaker, he's a full-time professional athlete, CrossFit, and he owns multiple businesses. So pretty much, he's a badass, and I'm super excited to get to know his story and just help all of us grow from your lessons, because I feel like a story shared, how about this? A story not shared is a story wasted. Tell me about kind of your story. Like, how did you get here with me today?
That's a good question, because you could go way far back, or we could just,
Let's go way far back.
Where do you start, right?
Let's go way far back.
I've always been a person that's very competitive. I've always been a person that's what I thrive off in life, whether it's, my business and wanting to be at a high level. And everything I do, my drive comes from competition. I competed in motocross for 17 years. I raced 5 years professionally. I transitioned for a little while. I was a strength and conditioning coach on the professional level with some of the factory athletes and whatnot. And then when I transitioned out of that, I naturally fell back into racing. I started recreationally, but
You're always intense.
Competing.
You're always intense. Okay.
Yeah, so I started racing at a pretty good level.
Recreation, I like that.
Yeah, on a veteran basis again, and that's how I got hurt. That's how I had an accident racing that left me paralyzed.
When was that?
That was 2014.
So that's, I guess, 5 years ago.
5 years, yep.
What was your mindset initially right when that happened?
I know sometimes for people it's a little bit hard to believe, but I was okay. I was very accepting of what happened, and I believe that everything that happens to us happens for a reason.
Where does that strength come from? Because that's really unique.
I just believe that God has a plan, and even in some other adversities that I faced early on in my life, as far as some financial strains, some relationship strains or whatnot, when I look back, as tough as they were, it happened for a reason. And so going through that and then being able to look back at past adversities and understand that, it was just kind of where I was in the mindset when I went through this.
I can for sure tell you that some people watching and some people listening are going to be like, what the heck? Because not everyone has that, internal fortitude and strength and faith.
Yeah.
So how would one that has a major adversity, and maybe you want to share a little bit about, first of all, your views on adversity.
Kind of my mantra or my philosophy I live by is attacking weakness. And what that goes into is, after going through a paralyzing accident, it's one of those things that a lot of people look at it, right? And even I did in the past. You look at somebody in a wheelchair and you think, man, what they go through must be so much more intense or just, it's something that it's so much bigger than the problems that I've faced in my life. And as somebody who's experienced that, I believe it's not. When you really look at things openly, it doesn't matter what the adversity is, they're all equal. I mean, you can be going through a financial strain. You can be having a difficult time in a really tough relationship thing, where when you're in the meat of it, it's equally as overcoming to you as something as physical as this. Take my wife, for example. When they look at the two of us, they see me physically struggle or physically be in a wheelchair,
it's
and so they think
visual, right?
Yeah, they think the adversity is all me, and I'm here to tell you that it's not. When we went through this accident, we were already married and together. It's one of those things that her life was affected just as much as I was. her role in our relationship, the things that she had to deal with, the things that changed in her life were just as equal as the adversity that I faced. Even though people don't physically see it the same, it's just as great. And so for me, it was kind of this idea, well, how do I get through that adversity? And, how do we get through this adversity?
Was that your initial question? Because some people would maybe ask, like, why did this happen? Did you go to there, or did you go to always, like, how can I get over this?
The strange thing is I didn't ever really have a moment within this where I wondered why is this happening to me? And that kind of goes to a backstory of it. It's something I prayed for. And I know that sounds weird to say, so you prayed to be paralyzed? No. But I did pray for an opportunity at one point to have audacious faith.
Wow.
To have a faith that's greater than, a lot of times when it comes to our beliefs, we limit those beliefs to what we feel is of more of a secular nature, right?
Yes.
Of what we see our limits are on an earthly basis. And to know that there's a greater being that can give us so much more than what we can think that we're physically or just in any way capable of.
Wow.
That's audacious faith. And so I prayed for an
it.
opportunity to be able to experience that and show the world that I can live on this level where I have this audacious faith. And so when my accident happened, I felt like that was the reason, and there was a reason behind it. So in that way, I was really calm and accepting of okay, like this is, it's not what I thought, it's not what I had planned in my head, but this is what it is. And so that's what I'm going to experience.
How does somebody that you're really special? I'm like, you are elevated being. So I'm like honored that you even told me that about the audacious faith, because that to me is on another level. How does one who is having like any type of adversity, because I think it's what you're saying is that they all could be just as overwhelming, right?
Correct.
So how does one cultivate like this mindset of overcoming or find light in the dark through you had already some sort of brilliant mindset? Like how would somebody that's really struggling, like where would they go first? What would they do?
I think one, it's being very aware of who you are. Personality-wise, strength-wise, motivational-wise, like who are you? And I think that's something that I've put a lot of time and effort into the past, is trying to understand who I am, what makes me tick, and how do I handle things? How do I experience things, and what's my reaction to that?
How did you do that?
It just takes time. I think it's just meticulous thought, as far as like not just living life in day-to-day interactions and just letting them happen, but almost overthinking or analyzing, like, why did I react this way, or why did I do this in this situation, and so you kind of have an understanding of who you are that way.
So do you have like a time, because some people do that like in meditation or prayer, like do you have a time carved out for that, or is it more kind of a general awareness for you?
I think for me it's more of a general awareness. Okay. I could see it definitely being a practice that would be prevalent in meditation or yoga, something to that effect. And I do some of that when I do like a yoga and mobility myself, cool. And so I do a lot of that reflecting in that time as well.
Okay. So first it's knowing yourself.
Yes, okay. Absolutely. And so for me, that was knowing that I was have a competitive nature.
Got it.
And so it's feeding that in a sense in my adversity.
Not saying, I can't compete anymore. It's like, how do I compete
So
now?
I knew like to keep a proper mindset as far as when I went through my accident and was paralyzed, it's like, how do I keep my focus? How do I, hold myself to a spot where I don't let this overcome me? And so a lot of that was understanding that, okay, I'm a competitive person. I need to find something that keeps me driven, and so that I don't get into the state it's like, well, I don't have anything anymore, wow. I'm just in a state
oh my gosh, this is gold. I'm taking so much from this for my own personal, yeah, knowing yourself.
Exactly. And so a lot of that came down to, what I talked about before as far as attacking weakness. And it's realizing that in anything that we face or anything that we do, we have strengths and weaknesses in our life. And we tend to want to gravitate towards the strengths for the obvious reasons.
Only doing the things you're good at.
We're good at it. It's not as difficult. It's, it comes naturally. And so there's this sense to want to gravitate towards that. But in the same respects, everything we do, we have weaknesses too, and we have struggles. And so that's where my focus came. It's like, okay, making that almost a competition within myself to attack that weakness in my life and focus on that. And when we do that, especially in adversity, that's how we can overcome it, is by focusing on those weaknesses and just being better.
Like going to it head on.
Exactly.
Head on. So good.
Yeah.
So good. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, friends, what I took away, I took so many things away from Jedidiah Snelson's story. I'm honored that he came out today to teach us about adversity, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, financial, relational. It's all the same. And if you're out there feeling like you have a weight on your shoulders, like you're dealing with a ton of fears, first, know yourself, know your weaknesses, know your strengths, define your own success. Don't let anybody else tell you what your definition of success should be. And I'd love to hear your reactions, your takeaways, your comments. The best conversations happen after the show down below.